Welcome to a new episode of Art Matters. I'm Wayne Quackenbush, your host. Today we're going to do one of our rare in-depth interviews with one artist, and I'd like to introduce everybody to Kathleen M. Tirrell, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So you're certainly welcome, and we've crossed paths many times over the recent few years, but only have met relatively recently. And well, to backtrack a little bit, I know you from the board of the Portsmouth Arts Guild, which
Yes.
you've been on, and then as contributing to shows at the Guild. And I guess we found out that we crossed paths at one of the wet paint shows at the Newport Art Museum. Now, your story starts a while before that. And do you want to talk a little bit about how you developed your interest in art?
Well, you know, as most artists say, they've always drawn as a child. It's always that desire's been there. But it wasn't the path that I took initially.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a nurse midwife and delivered babies for many years,
Mm-hmm.
which was wonderful and rewarding. I also have 5 children, so there wasn't a lot of time to paint, but I did take workshops and I did dabble. And then about 7 years ago, I got really serious about it and started taking lessons.
And when you were painting, what were your subjects usually?
Initially, it was always landscapes.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think you're still particularly fond of plein air.
I enjoy the camaraderie of plein air.
Yeah.
I have become, over the last 3 years, a pretty dedicated still life artist.
Okay.
And that's my preference. I like to control my studio.
Now, you mentioned that you were doing a lot of still lives during the pandemic.
Yes.
Obviously, a lot of artists spent a lot of time in their own studio, and a lot of people went through some transformations then. And of course, we'll get to that. Do you have any particular favorite artists?
I love Sarah Spackman. She's a British artist, and she's very similar to you and Uglow. Very precise, almost a mathematical component to their work. I did take a workshop with Sarah Spackman, and she never mixes any paint with a brush. It is all done with a palette knife, so everything is completely clean.
Okay.
I admire that, but I don't do that.
Well, it's very methodical. I
Yes.
think that, I mean, even people like Van Gogh, I think you could say that was true about him. I don't think there was ever messing around with stuff. So you kind of had art as a hobby, as kind of an escape during your career and raising your family?
It was just something I always felt that I needed to do.
Did
It
you
was
always have a
there.
special place in your house where you could retreat to?
Not with 5 children.
No, that's what I'm getting at.
That sort of happened as they left.
Yeah, I
Yes.
get you. All right. And when your kids were growing up, were you kind of drawing alongside them?
Yes. In fact, I had a son that we painted together and took lessons at the art museum together. And
Oh, okay.
yes, he was a very good painter.
Now
Very good artist.
You're not originally from Rhode Island.
No, I'm north of Boston.
Okay. And when did you move here?
In 1973, right after graduation
Oh,
from
okay.
nursing
So
school.
you must have been working in the Rhode Island, southern Massachusetts
Yes.
area. Okay.
So it's been a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. And how did you get involved with the Portsmouth Arts Guild?
Well, I saw an advertisement for a show, and I brought a painting out, the one that you were talking about earlier, the cloud painting.
Yep.
And one of the members of the board was there, and she asked me if I'd be interested in joining the board.
Oh, good.
So I went to a meeting, and
Now, do you remember, this is kind of a ridiculous question, do you remember what form of advertisement you saw?
probably Facebook.
Okay.
Yes, probably.
The social media is working.
social media is
All right,
working.
All right. And are you kind of pleased with the direction that the Guild is going? 'Cause, I mean, you kind of witnessed the convolutions of things through the pandemic, and you were involved with some of the virtual shows. Did you do any of those, or did you come on after that?
I came on just after that when
Yeah.
things were opening up again.
Okay.
But I think the trajectory of the Guild has been fantastic over
Well,
the last couple of years.
Yeah, I can vouch for that too. I think we're seeing a lot more interest and a lot. We get members every time there's a new show, and running the 2 galleries, I think, has been helpful too. I think that just having the mental space of having 2 different venues has been really good. But enough of that about that. We want to show some of your artwork, and I know you wanted to do kind of a chronological progression, or reverse chronological, or some kind of progression. You want, I first met you with the cloud painting, so you want to start talking about that?
As with a lot of artists, Monhegan has always been a great love of mine. So that initial large one was done just off the boat from Monhegan. So I had painted for a week.
Now, for those of our audience who don't know, what would Monhegan mean?
Monhegan is an island off the coast of Maine
Okay.
that Rockwell Kent, I can't even name all the artists that Wyeth, they all have places there or have painted there. So it's a well-known, and it hasn't changed really, so you can paint in the same spot that Rockwell Kent did, and it looks the same.
And did you stay there?
Yes, I've stayed there several times.
So it's known as an artist community still?
Yes.
Okay.
And Allison Hill, she's from Newport, she lives there now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's just artists all over the place, and there's no cars, only a couple of trucks for people that live there, and it's just magical. No
And you
street
obviously
lights.
have to take a ferry or a boat
Yes.
out there. Yeah.
Yes. And we had just come back and went out to dinner in Booth Bay Harbor, and I turned around and the light was just perfect, and so.
And did you use a photograph, or did you start it as a plein air?
That one I did a photograph of.
Okay. Now, are you using an underpainting here?
Yes.
And or was that what we're seeing in the edges?
Yes, I have a great love for cad red underpaintings.
And this is oil,
Yes.
and you're basically working in oils?
I work exclusively in oils.
Okay.
I've done a couple of small gouache studies, but it's a different medium and I'm getting used to it.
It's more of a sketch medium, too.
I think so.
It's not very forgiving.
No, it's not. It's good for out in the field.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So doing that.
Yep. And it feels like watercolor, but works in the exact opposite way of watercolor.
Dries pretty fast.
It sure does. And then the clouds.
That is Glen Farm
Okay, and that's in
in
Portsmouth.
Portsmouth.
Yep.
Yep. And that was just one evening when I was walking over there. It's not too far from my home. So
And again, I can see the underpainting of the orange. I've become a huge fan of that myself, and I use it in a completely different way than you do. It is astonishing to me how just those little hints that you leave make all the other colors pop.
I think especially the greens,
Yeah.
the complementary
Well,
colors.
obviously the complementary,
right.
the blues and the greens will do that, and you get such a sense of atmosphere. And obviously, your clouds have a real form to them because of the contrast in color.
It's interesting to do clouds because people will say they see things in them.
Yes.
Which
Yeah,
is
that's true.
something I didn't see.
And you think that anyone could do a cloud, but I've seen clouds that. Okay, I'll just stop talking there.
This was off the base,
This one?
the Navy base. There was just this magnificent cloud, so it's looking over Jamestown in the very far distance.
Yeah, what I think that people don't get about clouds is that they have real volume, and you have to really stress that when you render them.
And lots of colors.
Yeah, and one of your jobs as an artist is to pick up and sometimes even enhance on the colors that you actually see, or bring them out so other people can see them. Now, you have an interior over here?
Yes. That was done. Then I transitioned into going to RISD to do their painting certificate program. So that was an interior assignment. So I started to get inside the house. Done during COVID.
Oh, and how did that feel, working
I
inside?
actually really liked
Yeah.
the interiors. I was really kind of fascinated that they have a landscape feel of their own.
Yes, absolutely.
So I did enjoy those.
I mean, it kind of brings you back to when you were a kid and the couch was an island and the floor was lava.
It is that. It's that for the grandchildren now.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. So we have a pile of things
We
over here
do.
that you wanted to share with us.
This is back to landscape. Make sure I don't put it upside down. This was actually done in South Carolina
You just told it like
in a
that.
workshop that I was pleased with.
Yep.
Again, there's a lot of orange and warmth in that.
Yes, and is that a typical thing for you with the underpainting of a bright reddish orange hue?
I don't do it as much as I have done before, but I think I tend to gravitate towards warm, glowing colors. It makes me happy.
Well, you know, the contrast of it is always going to draw interest. The oranges against the blue, you can't help but be fascinated by that.
Even without thinking about it, you just sort of tend to just put those complementary colors out there.
Yeah, it just it calls to you as a viewer and as an artist too. Absolutely.
So, what else? This one, I don't know if you know Nick Paciorek. He is.
I don't, but I'm going to look up all
Pawtucket?
these names that I don't know.
He is really contributing to the Renaissance of Pawtucket.
Okay.
And so he had, which is a beautiful town.
Yes, I know.
I was very
Pawtucket.
surprised at how pretty it is.
It is it is pristine, but there's a lot of agonizing poverty there now. So it's very contrasty.
It is.
Now this is one of the old mills, I would take, right?
Yes.
And has it been repurposed?
Yes, now it's a national historical site.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So we painted in a plein air festival that Nick organized for 3 days.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of good things coming out of Pawtucket, and it is a beautiful, beautiful city.
It really is. And there's
Yeah.
a lofts for artists that a lot of people that I know have rented.
It used to be affordable.
Oh,
I'm
they're getting
sure.
popular. I will say the food is really good.
Oh, yeah, that's very true.
Some great empanadas in Pawtucket.
Yep, yep.
And then I did 3 little, just the tops of the buildings in Pawtucket, some buildings that I thought were interesting.
There you have a nice feeling about the square format?
I do really prefer square.
Yeah,
Not sure
I
why.
don't know why that's true for me too. You would think, well, the buildings kind of lend themselves to that format. Landscapes maybe not so much. But
This was they have a library
you
there
can
that
put them
is.
side by each,
Oh,
actually.
okay.
Yeah.
This, the library, and I can't remember who built it, but the library in Pawtucket is stunningly beautiful.
No, I never made it to the library there.
That's the library.
Oh, okay.
So you don't have to go now.
Very cool.
Yeah, those were fun to do.
And again, you took pictures and
No, those are plein air.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
So was the one I just showed you, because it was the festival. And it was fun. People came around and watched us paint, asked questions.
Sure. So you're very bold in your fine line work for working plein air. I've got to hand it to you for that.
Oh, thanks. Should I say thank you? And then this was a very staid old rundown house in Pawtucket that I just thought was fascinating. For some reason, it just appealed to me.
So would this be from the road? It almost looks like it might be from a canal or river or something.
No, it's from the road. Yeah. So put in a lot of pink.
Yeah, and I see that in some of your later pieces you have a progression towards gray, so we're going to talk about that at some point too.
All right.
So the next piece?
The next pieces are Judy Vilmain is an instructor at the Providence Art Club. And Judy Vilmain single-handedly held people together during COVID. I give her so much credit. She's a magical instructor.
Now, was she working with Zoom?
Yes. So she had 3 different sets of Zoom classes per week, which kept everyone focused and having some interaction. And she's just, I call her a good witch. She just brings out the best in everybody.
And did you find that you were obviously facing new challenges, but did you learn anything from your experience with doing an online workshop thing?
I did. Judy would give a lesson, then we would paint and come back. But it just had a sense of community, of an art community that was so lacking during that time.
Yeah. I mean, we have mutual friends I know who were working and painting at the same time as their children on the West Coast. They would be painting in their studio, and their children or even grandchildren, I can't remember which, were painting in their home.
Oh.
And there was a lot of sharing going on that was quite different, and I think that people were kind of enjoying that in a way. I know introverts like me were very pleased to not have to spend time in actual places with people.
I can understand that. But I do think Zoom did give us another venue to be attached to each other.
Yeah.
So I give Judy a lot of credit. I know a lot of people did it, but Judy did it really well.
A lot of people took to it.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't. I have a friend who was dancer and was trying to do dance classes on Zoom, and she just couldn't get it. She couldn't make it work for her. So, you know, it was different for everybody.
I think there's also a difference in what subject you're trying to teach.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I was started at RISD in person and switched to online, and that was,
I didn't even realize that.
That was a difficult transition because it was so much instruction.
Yeah.
That we missed, I think.
When you were at RISD, were you painting in classes?
Initially.
Like in the class room?
Well, what was good about that is if you started painting a drawing and it wasn't a good composition, they would nip you in the bud right then and there, which didn't happen when you were getting an assignment and handing it in.
And you could trail off into uncharted territories that your instructor wouldn't improve on.
Right. 5 hours after you started it. So, yeah, that was about the best.
I once got kicked out of a life drawing class because I wasn't drawing the same way as the other students, because I wasn't matriculated in the class, but that's a whole other story. You have more work to show.
I do. So Judy gave an assignment to do stripes, and I just recoiled in horror, saying I'll never, ever be able to do stripes. And I have become a complete aficionado
we're going to see
stripes.
lots of stripes from now on.
And I put stripes in, I would say, 80% of my work now, because I fell in love with the geometry and the
a lot of people initially have trouble with folds in cloth.
Yes.
And one of the earliest drawing assignments anybody could ever get would be to take a paper bag.
Oh, yes. I do.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
You crunch that thing up, and then you bring it back out, and you got to draw every crease. So I can definitely appreciate that. And you got to, not only are you doing the lines and getting them straight, but here you're adding the color to get the right shade and shadow, and I could see how you could get lost in it.
You do, and it's definitely a time when you're just looking at shapes, and you stand back and you say, oh.
And again, you turn the still life into a landscape.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
So that was one of my first ones. Again, another fruit and stripes. I also enjoy apples.
Granny Smith's.
Yes, only Granny Smith's, yes. Yes. So that was one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So that one was fun. And then I started doing pies. And whoops, that one's on the floor. And I put in stripes.
Now, the pandemic started you on pies, or did you get a pie assignment?
No, I started doing cakes and pies, and I was wondering why I was drawn to this. And I finally figured out it was because we were missing so many family celebrations
Oh, right.
that I was missing them.
It's the symbology
Yes.
of food. You know, I mean, who's going to eat a pie by themselves, right?
Right.
And the fact that you only have one slice left meant that a whole family has enjoyed that
Yes.
pie. But of course, I'm thinking, how many bakeries are there within driving distance that would love to have your paintings up on their walls?
Well, I don't know. Feel free to ask them.
Well, we'll talk about marketing at some point.
Okay. So here's here's a cake. And it was, again, the solidarity, the loneliness of just one piece of cake,
Yep.
one tea bag, one fork.
And it's a pink cake, so that's some kind of a special cake.
Yeah, it's usually a celebratory cake.
Yep. Yeah, because you don't get pink cakes that often.
People ask me if I eat my models, and I tell them that by the time I finish the painting, they're really not edible.
Yeah, they must sit there for a while. And how long does it take you to do a painting like this?
This size?
Yeah.
I'm slow, so I'm a very slow, methodical painter, so I would say that's probably a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm just, wondering what your approach would be to start something like this. Are you doing an elaborate sketch, or are you laying on paint? You're using brushes or palette knives?
I will do a sketch first for composition.
And do you transfer it, or do you do it on the canvas?
Sometimes, but I just do a brief notan
Uh-huh.
in a notebook, sketchbook.
Mhm.
And if it's really intricate, I'll do a very detailed drawing and then transfer it, do an oil transfer.
Explain what an oil transfer is.
So you take tracing paper and you have the cobalt drying. Do you know what that is? It's a solution, cobalt drying, and you mix oil paint with that, and you cover the entire backing of the tracing paper.
Okay.
And then when you transfer it, you just write over it directly onto your canvas, and so you already have an oil base in place. You don't have to try to worry about charcoal
So it's
smearing
almost
or-
like a underpainting.
No, it's just the
No,
lines.
just the line.
Just the lines. Yeah.
And cobalt drying is to expedite the drawing.
Yes.
Drying of the drawing.
Yes.
Okay.
Usually you have to wait till the next morning.
See, I did not know this.
Well, as another person that taught me that was Natalie Featherston.
Well, every time I talk to an artist, I'll always pick up on something
Mhm.
and get inspired by something I never learned before. So that's why I'm glad that we get to do these in-depth things
Mhm.
where people can really talk. And you have a lot of knowledge that people couldn't get just by looking, because there's a whole factory involved, and it's in your head and in your hands.
Mhm. And I've been very fortunate to have a lot of wonderful people teach me.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
and they're generous with their knowledge.
sure. And they keep, you can pass this on to other people.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Natalie is a trompe l'oeil painter. Do you know her?
I do not.
Her work is amazing. Very highly detailed. And
I'm very slowly and methodically meeting every artist in Rhode Island.
Okay.
That's my goal.
well, you
So-
should. You'd enjoy it. I would never be able to do what she does, but I
Mm.
admire it. And then these are just a couple of pies, more stripes.
More lonely pies.
Is that upside down? Yes. More lonely pies. I did about 12 of those and rearranged them so the slices were all facing different directions.
You could make a whole, to get ultimately kitschy with it, make a whole clock of
yes,
pie
my husband
slices.
said that. I don't know, but I just have fun with it, doing the complementary colors.
Now, do you have different color wash towels or tablecloths?
I have one color and I just change it because it's just the shadows. It doesn't matter what color it is. So I just change it.
Yeah, so I mean, when you go into a yellow, you have to, at least I was taught that you use the complement
to gray it down.
To make the color, make the color of the shadow.
Yes.
Yeah, so the red has green in it.
Yes.
And this has, well, everybody would call it a brown, but it's a tertiary color, because all browns are tertiary colors, that has blue or, purple, red.
Yes. And this is one of my favorites. I don't know why, but it just is.
Now, do you like working into the shadows and
Yes.
getting the gradation? Because to me, that just adds an atmosphere that you could never acquire by taking a picture. Anybody could take a picture of a piece of pie, but it would never have that sense of ethereal space that you get when you do it like this.
And I have to do it in person. I can't do these from a photo.
No.
These are all
yeah.
Live still lifes.
Yeah, I mean,
the studio.
Plein air is all well and good. I would really admire people who sit on the beach and they paint the waves. But you have to deal with weather and
Yes.
wind and all sorts of good
Too
stuff
hot,
like
too
that.
cold. Or people come up and want to ask you questions. I don't mind, but some people do mind.
Yeah, you enjoy having people behind you watch you paint?
It doesn't bother me.
Oh, okay.
I especially enjoy the little kids.
What if they talk to you?
It doesn't bother. It's
Okay.
fine. When the little kids come up and say something, I usually listen to them because they have good suggestions.
They really do.
Yes.
Yeah, they do. And when they draw and they paint, they're honest. We're actually really just running out of time now.
Oh, okay.
So
Wow,
you can
that was
show.
chatty.
Let's show these.
Okay.
Because those are your last. And
These I just did.
and they're still
Still a
possibly
little
wet.
In Judy Vilmain's
And this
flower
is what I was
workshop.
just talking about. How you all of a sudden has gone gray.
Judy
So,
is a huge proponent of gray. She
Okay.
loves gray. So
all
I
right.
tend to use a lot of it in her class.
So I need to thank you for coming down on short notice, and I appreciate you coming to talk with us today.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me.
Thank you. And that wraps it up with another episode of Art Matters, and we'll see you next time.
The mission of Meals on Wheels of Rhode Island is to meet the nutritional and special needs of older adults. For more information about our home-delivered meal program, to learn more about volunteer opportunities and how you can show your support, visit our website at rimeals.org.